And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Wednesday, April 2nd. I am Josh Engleman, here to break down an 8-game slate on DraftKings, a 9-game slate on FanDuel. Does that sound familiar? One less game on DraftKings and FanDuel. Feels like that's all we get any longer. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter, at Josh Engleman. Jokic and Curry played well last night, I guess. Allegedly. Rumor has it. 99.25 fantasy points from Nikola Jokic. 61 real points in 52 minutes. 11 rebounds, 10 assists, 2 steals. Not to be outdone, Steph Curry, 52 points in 36 minutes, 12 made threes, 10 boards, 8 assists, 5 steals, and a block. 6 stocks, 50 points, 10 boards, just missed the triple-double. Woo, baby. That's a big day out of Steph. Denny dropped 72. That's a massive day. I mean, Giannis dropped 69, and he was the 4th highest scorer. That's crazy. That's crazy. When you have 69 on a day with only 7 basketball games, you score 69 fantasy points and you're the 4th highest scorer. That's nuts. Truly nuts. But that's yesterday. We got a lot more to do today. Lots to break down. A lot of spots that we actually can't talk about. We got a couple teams on back-to-backs. Situations like Denver, which are obviously not going to be an easy discussion today, coming off a double OT. But whatever. We'll figure out what we can for right now, and we'll move on. I just finished my sim, so I'm going to drop my lineups into my sheet. You'll see them populate on the screen immediately. Yep. But now I think we started off. The New York Knicks are 10.5-point underdogs in Cleveland, 230 total. So I mentioned there's 9 games today. Only 2 of them have a line below 10. The Knicks are 10.5-point dogs. The Hornets are 14.5-point dogs. The Kings are 13-point favorites. The Heat are 11-point dogs. The Jazz are 17-point dogs. The Pistons are 14-point dogs. And the Pelicans are 18-point dogs. Not to mention the Spurs are 9-point dogs to Denver. And Atlanta's 4.5 to Dallas. 8 of the 9 games today have a line of at least 8.5. So, you know, that doesn't seem like it's going to be the most fun thing we'll do. But as we look at the Knicks, we can safely say one thing. We have no idea who's playing. So Knicks are on a back-to-back. We do not have their injury report at this point, and their injury report is going to be pretty important, to the point that talking about the Knicks right now is tough. Karl Anthony Towns didn't play yesterday. Cam Payne was out. Miles McBride was out. Obviously, Jalen Brunson is out. So we don't know the status yet of McBride or Payne or technically Towns. We don't really know the status of Mitchell Robinson either, although I think expecting him to not play the back-to-back is pretty well set in stone. So this becomes an absolute mess. We just don't know who's going to be active for the Knicks. Is McBride back? Is Payne back? Are they both back? Are neither back? Is Towns back? Is Robinson in? So for right now, we are getting some ownership into the Knicks. I'm not getting it based on our projections. I almost knocked my Gatorade over. But this could look a lot different. Obviously, the matchup's not great against Cleveland. This is just sort of an impossible place to talk about right now. FanDuel side, you know, McBride could look decent. Bridges, Hart, Anunoby. but we don't know who's available. Like, what if Towns and Mitchell Robinson are both out? Well, then $3,800 Precious Achua is going to be heavily owned. If McBride and Payne are out again, then we're going to figure out what we're doing with DeLon Wright or Tyler Kolek. But for right now, there's nothing I could add for the Knicks. We just don't have their information. Do we have any Knicks bets? That would at least be a little interesting. Anunoby under 19.5 points has a 2 OddsShopper rating. That's it for New York. We don't want to go too crazy there. Now, on the Cleveland side, no Ty Jerome. Otherwise, they're at full strength. Clearly, they could look a little bit different by the time we get to lock, but 10% ownership to Darius Garland. He's 10% optimal at 8K, point guard only. 10% ownership to Donovan Mitchell. He's a little bit more expensive. You do buy the MPE, but less optimal. Ranks 32nd. Don't have much. The guy that I'm getting to the most here for Cleveland is Evan Mobley. 8,300. Power forward center eligible. Somewhere around a 1.25 fantasy point per minute guy. He ended up in 22% of my lineups. We got him ranking 10th coming out of the Boom Bust tool. 19% optimal, 17% owned, 28% chance of 52 fantasy points. If you're going to Cleveland, you're probably not going to anything other than Garland, Mitchell, or Mobley. I think a little bit of DeAndre Hunter is fine. Let's see how this looks. All right, poll is up. Favorite Cavalier on DraftKings, Garland, Mitchell, or Mobley? Because for me right now, the answer is Evan Mobley. But I want to know what you guys think. All right, votes are coming in. Pretty balanced so far. We'll see where that ends up. On the FanDuel side, pretty much the same situation. Garland ranks 12th. Mobley ranks 18th. They're both around 15% owned. They're both 15% optimal. Mitchell is definitely a half step behind these guys on the FanDuel end. 9,100, point guard, shooting guard eligible, 5% optimal on FanDuel. Nothing crazy here. Slight lean to Mobley so far, but nothing too crazy in the poll. That's kind of how I see it, too. Mobley a little ahead of Garland, who's a little ahead of Mitchell, but nobody you're going crazy for. We need Knicks news. That'll dictate Cleveland a little bit, but this is like a middle of the pack game today. There are some teams we need to pay attention to, but they're going to come up a lot later. Charlotte Hornets. Going to be very surprised if we're playing these guys today. 14.5 point underdogs in Indy, 224 total. They're not missing anybody other than the guys that have been out. LaMelo, Trey Mann, Brandon Miller, Grant Williams. But we're not getting any love here. KJ Simpson ranks 42nd. He's 6% owned, 6% optimal. That's the highest of anybody on Charlotte for DraftKings. And they don't have anybody. All of their G League guys are available today. So Damian Bow is available, which means that you can't feel too comfortable about KJ Simpson's minutes. Like, can he just go out there and play 32 again? Absolutely. But they've got bodies today, and that kind of makes it difficult. Oh, yeah. Appreciate CM. Thanks for bringing that up. Shout out to Frank. Bull got the DNP yesterday. full stop unplayable guy ended up fully unplayable. Who could have seen that one coming? So yeah, like for Charlotte, I got 4% of KJ Simpson, 3% of Bridges, 3% of Mark Williams. I just don't see how you go to Charlotte today. Too many bodies. Prices are up. Not good bodies to begin with. Now, FanDuel slightly different. Miles Bridges is $800 cheaper on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. He's 20% owned. He ranks 20th. He's getting some optimal. Bridges is fine on FanDuel. Mark Williams is $900 cheaper on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. $7,300 on FanDuel, 15% optimal, about 15% owned, ranks 15th. Very different plays on FanDuel than they are on DraftKings. But keep your eye on this one. Keep your eye on this one. S&P. Bull was a lock button play for Frank yesterday. Now, I believe he only played one lineup, so I don't like the way that he says it. Just say that you're playing him in single entry. But, yeah, went with Bull. DNP yesterday. Frank 3, 4, 5, 6 or 4, 5, 6, 7 or whatever it is in playback. I forgot to look for Cleveland. Do we have any Cleveland or Charlotte bets? Houston, OKC, Dallas. Nope. No Charlotte, no Cleveland. Now on the Pacers side, probably not going to have a ton to say just yet, but this could look a little bit different. Q-tag Benedict Mathurin, Q-tag Miles Turner. Thomas Bryant's at 4,200. He will be pretty heavily owned if we end up getting no Miles Turner. Another interesting piece here is that Tony Bradley is already out, so they'll be going small if Turner ends up out. If Turner's in, Turner, Siakam, and Halliburton are all like 6 to 10% optimal, 6 to 10% owned, 23rd, 27th, and 30th ranked. They're all in 5 to 10% of my lineups as well. I think Nembhard's okay. There's not a lot here for the Pacers. Like, playable guys, if you're playing 20 max, you're probably getting one of Halliburton, one of Nembhard, one of Siakam, and one of Turner. But it's not a lot. But what if Benedict Mathurin and Miles Turner both sit? You know, then we're freeing up 55 minutes and we're looking at Obi Toppin and Thomas Bryant and Jarris Walker potentially. So, Steven, they don't have any other centers. So somebody's going to get some extra minutes. Or everybody's in. But, I mean, if you're the Pacers today, don't you just sit somebody? Like, do you really need the full strength roster as 2 touchdown favorites at home against Charlotte? Feels like no. But we need their news. 2 Q tags right now, making things a little bit harder. FanDuel side, you know, same sort of story. 5 to 10% ownership on Halliburton, Nembhard, and Siakam. Probably not going to Turner in this case. But yeah, like a pretty uneventful team. Again, no indie bets either out there on the Portfolio EV tool, which you could get at OddsShopper.com. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's go to Sacramento. Sacramento Kings, 13-point favorites in Washington, 231 total. Now, this one we could actually talk about at least a little bit. No Devin Carter, no Jake LaRavia for the Kings. I'm going to assume that we continue to get Keon Ellis in the starting lineup. And if that's the case, we've got like 1.5 interesting plays on DraftKings. Domantas Sabonis is 9,500, center only, 13% optimal, ranks 13th, 18% owned. He's in 17% of my lineups. Zach LaVine, shooting guard, small forward eligible, 7,700. He's been playing 36 minutes a night. He's in the top 30, 10% owned, 5% owned, 8% optimal. Get to 5 to 10% of them. You're not going to DeRozan. You're not going to Murray. You're not going to Keon Ellis. You're not going to Malik Monk. This is Sabonis and Levine and nothing else for Sacramento. On FanDuel, it opens up a little bit more. Zach LaVine's $700 cheaper. He ranks 5th, 30% optimal, 15% owned. DeMar DeRozan is $5 cheaper and has an MPE. 20% optimal, 20% owned, ranks 14th. Sabonis has an MPE. He's $200 more expensive on FanDuel, but he gets power forward eligibility. That's well worth the extra money. 12% optimal, 14% owned, ranks 23rd. So there's not a lot of guys you want to get to from Sacramento today, but you're focused on Sabonis, Levine, and DeRozan on the FanDuel side. Speaking of Sacramento, under 5.5 assists for DeMar DeRozan has a 3 OddsShopper rating, 2.8% EV, neutral historical ROI. So that one's well worth taking. There's a Sabonis under 20.5 rebounds and assists that has disappeared as well. So skip that one. But DeMar still out there. 3 OddsShopper rating, 2.8% EV on DraftKings. Now the Wizards. I'm very sick and tired of playing this team because they always have something that looks good or could look good. No Keyshawn George, no Corey Kispert, no Chris Middleton, no Marcus Smart. Colby Jones and JT Thor are both questionable. We're getting 20% ownership to Colby Jones and like 10 to 15 on Jalen Martin, Tristan Vukcevic, Alex Sarr, AJ Johnson. The guy I like the most is Colby Jones, but I have no confidence, little confidence, some minor amount of confidence. So like, he missed their most recent game. The 4 games before that, he played 29 minutes, 30 minutes, 28 minutes, and 27 minutes. We got him in for 27.7. It's a 0.87 fantasy point per minute guy. That's really good value at small forward for 4K. He's in 50% of my lineups. He ranks 5th, 40% optimal, 20% owned. We'll see what this ends up looking like by the time we get to lock, but he's going to look like a value option, assuming he plays, because he is questionable. I think the second best option on the team is actually Tristan Vukcevic, but again, a little nervous. Seems to be playing about 22 minutes a night, 4,400 center only, 10% optimal, 10% owned. Sarr at 6,500 has been playing 28 minutes a night, 6,500, 10% optimal, 10% owned. AJ Johnson's been playing massive minutes. He played 37 and 42 across the last 2. But he's 5K. He's a 0.8 guy, 10% optimal, 15% owned. Like, I got a bit of these guys, but the takeaway, at least for me right now, is all things Colby Jones. Are you guys going to join me for Team Colby Jones today? You guys willing to play him? He's even better on FanDuel. Number 1 play of the day, 4,600 shooting guard only. 30+% optimal, 20% owned. AJ Johnson's 20% owned on FanDuel. Vucevic, Martin, and Sarr are all right around 10, same as DraftKings. Bob Carrington is 14% owned on FanDuel. Lots of ownership coming into Washington today. I know nobody's going to want to play them, but you probably should. As of right now, they're the 3rd most optimal team, and they're tied for 2nd in Boom. So it's a game to pay attention to. You never know what they're going to do with their rotation and their lineups. Seems pretty firm, but you know, you get Colby Jones and JT Thor out, it starts to look a little different. They're down to 10 guys at that point. Then you start feeling very different about your Jalen Martins. Your, Champagne becomes a little bit more interesting at that point. Bob Carrington becomes a little bit more interesting at that point. So the Q tags matter, but you're getting to Washington no matter what. The total's too good here. 231, very reasonable. Not the fastest game in the world. Most of the later games are a bit faster. And it is a 7 o'clock start. So, flexibility wise, that's not the best. You've got 3 7 o'clocks, a 7:30, an 8, an 8:30, a 9, and a 9:30. So we have 1-game swaps every half hour tonight. Let's see if we have any Wizards bets. We did before, we don't now. There's nothing here. All right, so I was going to wait on this, but I can't wait any longer. It's too fun. I'm dropping a link into chat right now. You guys are going to want to click that link. I actually should probably put it into the description of this video quickly while I'm moving. So give me 1 second here. Okay. Link is in chat. I'm going to quickly add it to the description for people in the future. Okay. Let's save that. And now I can tell you guys what we're talking about here. So you guys can see the link. I dropped it from my personal account into chat. But what I want you guys to do is sign up for the Portfolio EV tool. I show it every day. We look at our favorite bets. And we're going to do it again today, but I got a promo for you guys. In order to celebrate Beef Stew's current suspension for fighting once again, the promo code is STEW. Click the link in chat or the one in the description. Get a 2-week free trial of the Portfolio EV tool. If you want to take a market-based approach to beating the books, you can get it for 2 weeks using the promo code STEW. He got 2-game suspension, so I'm giving you 2 free weeks of Portfolio EV. We share this tool on the screen every day. We take a market-based approach to beating the books. We have historical ROI. So we have every bet we've ever recommended over the course of the past 2 years. We track every one of those recommendations. You can sift through all that data to see the places that we have been the best. You can shop around for the best line across a bunch of different sports books. You get an OddsShopper rating, a Portfolio EV score. So 18 OddsShopper rating, 8.8% EV. We give you bet sizes. You can mass bet. So if you have 5 bets that are available on DraftKings, you click the mass bet button, all of them will load to your bet card. We have odds boost calculators, parlay builders. You can build your own portfolios, get notifications to your phone to place these bets, and plenty more at OddsShopper using the Portfolio EV tool. By the way, make sure you choose the weekly option for OddsShopper when you go to sign up. Click that link. Again, the promo code is STEW. STEW. The link is in chat. It's also in the description. You get 2 free weeks of the Portfolio EV tool. There are 20 free passes to be claimed. If you're the 21st person to get to this link, you're going to be shit out of luck. So move quickly. Click that link, sign up, come do some sports betting with us. Also works for pick'em sites. If you're a Prize Picks, underdog, sleeper, better guy, it also, same exact product, works on the pick'em sites as well. And you guys can go see all the content that we have for Portfolio EV that shows you how great this is. Greg's got a bankroll challenge. He's turned $100 this NBA season into like $1,500. Nathan, Aton, Laffy, Eric, Ben. I'm probably missing people as well. Danny Burke. Come on in, guys. Come on in. Beef Stew got suspended, and his suspension got you guys a 2-week free trial of the Portfolio EV tool. Been waiting on that one, guys. Been waiting on that one. All right, Miami Heat, next team up. 11-point underdogs in Boston, 213 total. This is the lowest total on today's slate by a few points, like more than 10 on DraftKings, 3 on FanDuel. It's the lowest pace game by 2.5 possessions on FanDuel and 4 on DraftKings. Miami is without Duncan Robinson and Andrew Wiggins. One guy is getting ownership today, and that's Jaime Jaquez. That's got to be terrifying to everybody. So Jaquez got 24 minutes off the bench last time out. I got him in for 21.5 today. That got him 20% optimal, 20% ownership. He's 3,400, shooting guard, small forward eligible. Kyle Anderson's getting 5% ownership. No one else is ranked in the top 50. The terrible matchup against Boston, although it could look better. We'll get to that in a second. But bad pace, bad defensive matchup, bad offense, increased salaries, difficult to want to go to your Tyler Heroes, your Bam Adebayos, your Khalil Wares. All those guys, every starter is 3% lower or 3% or lower optimal rate. Right now it's Jaquez and slow-mo. Jaquez scares me, slow-mo scares me, but I think having, 10 to 15% of those guys is okay. But the minutes could be just about anything. Larson is better to you? Well, he's not. He's a 0.7 fantasy point per minute guy. Looks dreadful. We got Jaime Jaquez projected for the same amount of fantasy points at a lower salary with the same positionality in 6.5 less minutes. It just doesn't look good for Miami, at least not in the starters. And on FanDuel, it's even worse. Jaquez is 4,400. You don't want him there. Kyle Anderson's 4,200. You don't want him there. Highest ranked guy for Miami is Bam, 57th. 4% optimal, 8% owned. This game environment's awful. Miami is not getting a lot of ownership. Boston's getting even less than them. This is just not a good game. It's just not a good game. Now, in terms of bets, we have under 19.5 points for Bam Adebayo on ESPN Bet. 5 OddsShopper rating, 3.3% EV. That's the type of thing you could grab using that promo code STU. But yeah, with Davion Mitchell back playing 30 minutes, it's tough to squeeze anything out of here from Miami. Now, Boston, we can't talk about right now. This is completely impossible. Jaylen Brown is questionable. Drew Holiday is questionable. Kristaps Porzingis is questionable. Al Horford is already doubtful. There's no ownership going to Boston right now. This is all very live to change. But it all depends on who's in and who's out. But 3 of the starters are questionable. So whoever's left will likely look okay. But if you get Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, and Porzingis out, then yeah, like Derek White and Jason Tatum are going to look great. Smart, Trevor. Smart. That's a great idea, buddy. Congratulations on running up against a completely functional sports betting model that takes nothing into account other than data. I don't blame you. Smart move there. So yeah, Q-Tag Brown, Q-Tag Holiday, Q-Tag Porzingis. You guys understand what's happening here. We need to know who's available. Will there be value here? Maybe. If they're all in, they look awful. If they're all out, then a lot of it will look good. But what can you do when you have 32 minutes of Drew Holiday, 29.5 minutes out of Jaylen Brown, 30 minutes out of Porzingis? That's 91 minutes. That's 38% of all of their playing time. We'll figure it out later, guys. We'll figure it out later. No Boston bets either, obviously. You would not feel great about that. Let's keep moving. We're now going to our 5th straight game with a double-digit spread. The Utah Jazz are 17.5-point underdogs in Houston, 225 total. Utah is without Jordan Clarkson, John Collins, Lauri Markkanen, Micah Potter, Oscar Tshiebwe, Cody Williams. Q-Tag Walker Kessler, Q-Tag Colin Sexton, Q-Tag Jaden Springer. Maybe we like something from Utah. Now, terrible matchup. I mean, about as bad as it gets. Utah loses a possession and a half below their average. Obviously, Houston's defense is great. Nobody is higher than 6% optimal, which is Keontae George. Nobody is more than 4% owned, which is Colin Sexton. But like, if Walker Kessler and Colin Sexton sit, they only have 8 guys. I believe they only have 10 right now. And then, 3 Q tags. So we might end up with value. We might be able to get to Colin Sexton or Kyle Filipowski or Bryce Sensabaugh. But we can't tell yet. This is a lot like Boston. Sexton, Kessler, Springer, all questionable. That's 70 minutes. That's 29% of this entire slate. So DraftKings or FanDuel, you're paying closest attention to Keontae George, but we are miles away from figuring out what we want from Utah. It's nothing if everybody's in. It's a lot if everybody's out. Christopher, do the guys at DK do a good job pricing the NBA? I don't think about it. Like, it's not something that I ever consider. Yes, I guess. It doesn't really, it doesn't affect anything. So it's not really on my radar. But yeah, Utah, we need the news. Again, Sexton questionable, Walker Kessler questionable, Jaden Springer questionable. Houston has everybody in. And for right now, only one guy's getting a bunch of ownership, but we do have 10% optimal and 10% ownership going to Fred VanVleet and Jalen Green. They rank 20th and 22nd. They're both in 10% of my lineups. But Alperen Şengün, 8,700, potentially no Walker Kessler, 1.5 fantasy points per minute, 5.4x value, ranks 7th. He's in 47% of my lineups, 20% ownership. DFS PhD, yes, but no. It's not like that affects the things that I'm doing. I'm just going to run my sims and take the answers. Like, the outputs might be impacted by the efficiency of salary, but what I do isn't. It's the same. It's the same. I do the same work one way or the other. There's no other ownership coming into Houston. Nothing for Brooks. Nothing for Amin Thompson. Maybe a little tiny bit of Tari Eason. But I think the focus is Şengün as a priority, VanVleet and Jalen Green as quality lineup filler. On FanDuel, you're casting an even wider net. 10% ownership to VanVleet, 10% to Jalen Green, 10% to Brooks, 10% to Şengün, 10% to Tari Eason. I think Şengün looks the best here still, too, but I'm not sure what you're asking me, Doc. I'm just saying, it makes no difference to me what anybody is priced. I'm just going to open up the Sims, run the Sims, and take the data that comes out of the Sims. If we're talking about whether I want the salary data to be efficient or not, no, I want it to be wildly inefficient. And it's better if it's inefficient. But it doesn't affect the way that I treat the slate. I don't pay, it's nothing to pay attention to. But yeah, you want the most inefficient salary possible because more people will fail to do the right thing in those scenarios. But yeah, look at the optimal rates here. 12, 8, 7, 22, 11, 9, 9, 13, 14, 8 in ownership. We like Houston. That shouldn't be surprising. They face Utah. Now, they should beat the shit out of them, so that's not a fun part of this. Yes, the worse, the more inefficient the pricing is, the better it is for people that are good at this. Because the people that are bad at this won't take advantage as much as they should. It's like when people don't want to play really good chalk because they think that's a bad idea. All they're doing is making your life easier. That's Houston. We do have Houston bets. Under 22.5 points for Jalen Green. 5 OddsShopper rating, 4.6% EV. Pretty big historical ROI as well. That's a really nice Jalen Green option. Finally, we get to a game that isn't projected to be a complete blowout, so I'm sure it will be instead. The Atlanta Hawks are 4.5-point underdogs in Dallas, 237 total. We don't have any injury news for Atlanta that we expect, but they are on a back-to-back, so we don't technically have their injury report yet. We're getting around 20% ownership to Trae Young and Karis LeVert. I would say Karis LeVert is the better option. Ranks 9th, 4,600. Shooting guard, small forward, eligible. 20% optimal, 20% of my lineups, 20% owned. I think Dyson Daniels is fine. Around 10%. He ranks just inside the top 20. Trae's 10% optimal, 18% owned, 14% of my lineups. Looks very reasonable in that 15 to 20% range. And then, you want to get 5% of Risa Shea or Onyeka Okongwu. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. But I think the focus is going to be LeVert, Trae Young, and to a lesser extent, Dyson Daniels. FanDuel, Okongwu looks very different. He's got power forward eligibility, basically the same price. 20% optimal, 20% owned. Ranks 11th. Dyson Daniels actually snuck into the top 10 at number 10. 8,100. Point guard, shooting guard eligible. 22% optimal, 13% owned. Obviously, that extra point for steals helps him out here. Trae's fine on FanDuel. Karis LeVert is fine on FanDuel. But Atlanta's decent. We got a couple options that we can get to here. Do we have any Atlanta? Oh, the number one Atlanta bet, the number one bet on OddsShopper is Atlanta. Trae Young, under 10.5 assists, 7 historical ROI on Fanatics. How many assist props have we recommended on Fanatics so far this year? We're 182 and 142. But yeah, that looks good. That looks really good. It's out there on, there's some positive value on DraftKings right now. It's also out there on Fanatics, Sugar House, Unibet, ESPN Bet has an 11% ROI. PointsBet has this one as well. Very, very, very good Trae Young bet. Justin, we didn't miss talking about anything because of it. Not a single thing was missed. Not even close. Let's go to Dallas. Oh, the Mavs. The Mavs. So Derek Lively is questionable. Brandon Williams is out. He's with the G League team. AD probable. Caleb Martin probable. Only guy getting any love is Anthony Davis. 9,600. Power forward only. 35% optimal. 20% owned. 43% of my lineups. I think we got to get to Anthony Davis today. What about you guys? You guys want to play AD? I'm guessing no. Do you want to play AD? Justin, should we have talked about DeLon Wright? A guy that wasn't very good, didn't project as anything special, and was barely owned? Not so sure we missed out on talking about anything there, brother. People don't want to go to AD. I got him in for 29 minutes. I'm going Anthony Davis here. Why not? 28, 30, and 29 minutes over the last 3. Sign me up. Good per minute guy. Plenty of touches to go around. Not that crazy of a matchup. I'll take some Anthony Davis. Why not? Why not? Couple shares of Clay are okay. Dinwiddie's 5% owned. Not all that interesting. I think Anthony Davis is the only thing that looks actually good. I mean, Clay's 10% optimal, so that's fine. Ranks 21st. Anthony Davis ranks 6th. And on FanDuel, he's even better. Power forward, center eligible, 10K, 30% optimal, 23% owned, ranks 2nd. PJ Washington is $800 cheaper on FanDuel, 30% optimal, 15% owned, much better play. Clay is a 10 to 20% owned guy on FanDuel as well. You're not going to Dinwiddie there. But Clay and PJ Washington and AD on FanDuel, Clay and AD on DraftKings. Join me on AD Island today, guys. It's a fun place to be. We also have PJ Washington under 16.5 points with an 8 OddsShopper rating. We have nothing else for Dallas. Guys, don't forget, I know this is going to sound insane. We still have the cycle promo going for MLB DFS. You can get it for $1 for today and tomorrow. So if you sign up and choose any MLB DFS package, weekly, monthly, core, max, and you use the promo code CYCLE, you'll get it for $1. That'll cover you for today and tomorrow, and then you're going to re-up on April 4th for whichever package you chose. You'll get projections, ownership, top stacks, top pitchers, top batters, single lineup sim, post-contest sims, regular sims, premium Discord, and more. So the link is in the description. The promo code is CYCLE. $1 for MLB DFS packages today and tomorrow. We'll re-up on the 4th. So you get 48 hours of our MLB DFS package for $1. All right, San Antonio Spurs. They're 8.5 point underdogs in Denver. 229 total. Now, for the Spurs, we have no idea who's available. They're on a back-to-back. And this is going to get a little tricky. I'm assuming that we don't have Jeremy Sohan again. And I'm assuming Charles Bassey is back. If anything else is different, we'll make those changes later. But Chris Paul is the number 2 play of the day. I am not confident in this, but I am if he gets the minutes. So over the last 5 games, he's played 21, 33, 35, 18, and 28. We got him in for 28. That would be 4,300, 50% optimal, 30% owned, 55% of my lineups. If we get 28 minutes out of Chris Paul, he's an amazing play. If you project him for 24 minutes, then he's like a 10% owned guy. But I love Chris Paul today. I think he's going to be pretty highly ranked all day, depending on how the news breaks. We're also getting 35% ownership to Julian Champagnie. 24 minutes, shooting guard, small forward eligible, 3,400, 0.85 fantasy points per minute, 6x value, 30% optimal, ranks in the top 10. We're also getting 10% ownership to Stephon Castle, Harrison Barnes, and Keldon Johnson. All those guys look like they should be right around there. Mamu is pulling really big ownership. 3,500 power forward center eligible. I'm not there yet, but he does look like a value play. We need to hash out who's available for San Antonio first. On the FanDuel side, they're not nearly as good. Chris Paul, Castle, Keldon Johnson, and Champagnie are all 15% owned. Chris Paul looks way more optimal. Johnson and Champagnie look neutral. I'd argue Stephon Castle is a little overowned. I would also argue that Devin Vassell on FanDuel is underowned. But we're going to be getting a lot of San Antonio. We just don't know who's in yet, because we had no Sohan yesterday. We had no Charles Bassey yesterday. We don't know what that's going to look like. They could sit Chris Paul on a back-to-back, at which point we're probably going to look at like Blake Wesley instead. So we need news for San Antonio, but they're getting a lot of ownership and they deserve it. They're the most owned team on the slate right now. 30% to Paul, 30% to Champagne, 20+% to Mamu, 10 for Castle, 10 for Barnes, 10 for Keldon Johnson. There's a lot to like for San Antonio. We just don't know what it is officially yet. No Spurs bets available on OddsShopper right now. Now, Denver, I'm not even going to bother. They're coming off a double OT game. They're on a back-to-back. We already didn't have Aaron Gordon yesterday. We didn't have Michael Porter Jr. yesterday or Jamal Murray. I don't think we're going to have Aaron Gordon today. Jokic looks awesome. 12-5, plenty of value, 45% owned, ranks 4th, 35% of my lineups. I will happily get to a ton of Jokic. If for some reason he sits, then we're going to pay attention to DeAndre Jordan and Zeke Naji. But we don't know if Murray's playing. We don't know if MPJ's playing. We don't know if Aaron Gordon's playing. We don't know what's happening here. I mean, they're coming off a double OT game. So if Jokic is in, play as much Jokic as you want. Confirmed good at basketball. There's nothing that we could even hypothesize here. 12-8 on FanDuel, play him. But we don't know who's available. Both of these teams are on a back-to-back. We need their info. We need their info. So pay close attention. It's a giant, giant, giant spot today. Speaking of giant spots, the Detroit Pistons are 14.5-point dogs in OKC, 231 total. This is the final game of the DraftKings slate. The Pistons are not expected to have Cade Cunningham, who's doubtful. Ron Holland, Marcus Sasser, and Isaiah Stewart, who, using the promo code STU, can get you a 2-week free trial of the Portfolio EV tool with a link in the description. Stewart's out. So no Stewart, no Sasser, no Holland, no Cade Cunningham. 40% ownership to Dennis Schroeder. Point guard, shooting guard eligible, 6K, ranks 3rd, 45% optimal. Priority play all day today, even against the Thunder. Paul Reed. B-ball Paul. 3,100. Center only. 50% optimal. 50% owned. 57% of my lineups. Should just be the backup center getting whatever minutes Jalen Duren doesn't play. I think it's very difficult to get away from Paul Reed here. So Paul Reed's in 50% of my lineups. Dennis Schroeder's in 50% of my lineups. Asar Thompson is in close to 20. He ranks 14th. 18% optimal, 22% owned, 5,600. Small forward, power forward eligibility. Lots to like here. The priorities are Schroeder, Paul Reed, and Asar Thompson. On FanDuel, the priorities are Schroeder, Paul Reed, and Asar Thompson. Schroeder ranks 3rd. Paul Reed ranks 4th. Asar Thompson ranks 21st. Schroeder and Reed are just shy of 30% owned. Asar Thompson just shy of 20% owned. Probably not all that much to the rest of the Pistons, but you're paying attention to 3 specific dudes today. Great value with these suspensions. We've got Jalen Duren, over 9.5 rebounds. 3 OddsShopper rating on FanDuel, 2.7% EV, 4% historical ROI. Really nice Pistons bet. Steven, they don't have anybody else they could play, though. That's the thing. It's Paul Reed season today, guys. Could play more minutes if it's a blowout. Like, this is a great spot. 1.15 fantasy points per minute. Yeah. Late night hammer Paul Reed edition today. Yeah, Clinton. Bobby Clintman. He's played 19 minutes all year. I'm sure he'll play it tonight. Oklahoma City Thunder, final team from the DraftKings slate. No Aaron Wiggins for this one. No ownership either. Everybody for OKC is sub 10%. It's 9% ownership to Chet is the most. Now I have him 19% optimal. So do like Chet a little bit as like a pivot. I got to 10% of Case and Wallace, but everybody is sub 10% optimal other than Chet. Everybody is sub 10% ownership. On the FanDuel side, it's basically the same story. Case and Wallace and Jalen Williams, good Jalen Williams, both got over 10% optimal. Chet's at 24, ranks 7th, 24% optimal, 13% owned, but not a lot of interest in SGA, not a lot of interest in Dort. Rest of the bench is not all that appealing. You know, these are all like 5% optimal guys. They're big favorites. I don't have a ton that I like here for OKC. Now, as always, you could roster Shea whenever you want, but I think we'll have some better options. Shea will clearly look better if we end up getting no Jokic. Like, that's certainly on the table. But I doubt I'll have a lot. We do have it under 32.5 points for SGA with a 27 OddsShopper rating on Novig. Or under 33.5 points on DraftKings, 4 OddsShopper rating, 3.6% EV. You can go up against SGA right here. Finally, we close it out. This game is FanDuel only. Pelicans, 18-point underdogs at the Clippers. Normally, you don't get to the Pels against the Clips because the Clips are so good on D. But we are. Because they're so shorthanded. They've got so many guys out. No Jordan Hawkins for this one. Obviously, no Zion, Murray, Murphy, McCollum, Jones, Brandon Boston. 20% ownership to Jose Alvarado at 5,600. He's 20% optimal, ranks 17th. Probably the only guy you actually care to get to from the Pelicans. You've got 5 to 10% optimal on Reeves, Olynyk, and Messi, and they're all 5 to 10% owned. But I think Alvarado, at least for the Pelicans on the FanDuel side, is the guy that you would be going to. No Pelicans bets out there. And then for the Clippers, by all accounts, it seems like they're going to be at full strength other than Amir Coffey. We did see Norm Powell get to 20% optimal, ranks 13th, 15% owned. Everybody else is 5% optimal, 5% owned or below. So Norm Powell, now that he's getting a couple extra minutes, looks better on FanDuel. Otherwise, you're probably not getting to a lot of Clippers. 9 games up, 9 games down. Time to build a lineup. Now, not the best time to build a lineup because of all of the stuff we have up in the air, but I can still build the goods like the best of them. So hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. This is our single lineup simulator. Comes with any one of our packages, whether you get MLB or NBA or whatever else. Let's get it built. We're going to start with Tristan Vukcevic. I'm going to get Karis LeVert. And I'm going to get Kyle Anderson. Now we need to start spending some salary. Well, let's get Case and Wallace first. Small forward. Not a lot of good value at small forward. Well, good value at small forward. Basically nothing else of value. So I think I'm going to just be taking more actual value plays at small forward. Let's get Colby Jones. Now we need a guard. We really need to spend some salary. There's not a lot of it to go around. I guess Darius Garland. And then at forward, we'll get Chet. And then at utility, we will get Alperen Şengün. That leaves me $5,100 to upgrade this lineup. That should not be difficult in any way. So the first guy that I would want to upgrade is probably going to be Colby Jones, but he's so cost effective that it might not actually be worth it. Colby Jones is a 6x value. We need to get at least kind of close to 5. Oh, Zach LaVine, maybe? Devin Vassell? Guess I'll go Vassell. That leaves me 2,100. I can probably take on some ownership here. Part of me honestly wants to get to like Jokic or Schroeder or Champagne. I'm leaving a lot of ownership on the table here. Can I upgrade to AD? No, that's going to be 24. Now I'd be $300 short. Or Schroeder. I guess I can get a Sar Thompson. That's probably kind of helpful. Small forward, power forward. So if we take out Kyle Anderson and go to a Sar, that leaves me $100 left. Let's see how this one does. I think I'm going to be over 60. So let's say 65.7. $56.6. Back to the drawing board. I think I left too much ownership on the table and not enough fantasy points. So I'm going to take a Sar out. We're going to go back to Colby Jones. Oh, wait, I can't do that. Let's get Chet in at power forward. Then I go back to Colby Jones. So I have $1,700 to upgrade somewhere. Feels like Tristan Vukcevic is probably that guy. So let's move Şengün back to center. Then we have 6,100 for a utility guy. That's going to end up being... Actually, it might actually be a Sar. What happens if I take Schroeder? Just out of curiosity. 61-1. We're going to sneak over the line here. 51-1. Okay. Well, I'm going to clear it and start this one from scratch. We'll take a little bit of a different path. I think I gave up too much ownership, and I didn't need to. So we're going to stick with Colby Jones. And we will stick with Karis LeVert. I think Alperen Şengün is the right move there. But for point guard, it's either... I think it's just going to be Chris Paul. And then power forward just seems like it's a Sar. Guard is where we can start to upgrade and spend a little bit more salary. Fred VanVleet, a little interesting there. Although it is giving up a ton of value. Let's see if we can get Schroeder in that spot. Forward, we can work our way down the line a little bit more. That's where I will keep Chet. And then 9,600 for utility opens me up to AD on the nose. Let's see what this one looks like. Come on, 60 plus. Ooh, yeah, that's 60 plus. All right. 114. Chris Paul, Karis LeVert, Colby Jones, Asar Thompson, Alperen Şengün, Dennis Schroeder, Chet Holmgren, AD. Boom. The czar is in the building, being dominant at his job. Now let's do FanDuel. Much easier. I can build FanDuel in my sleep. All right, for FanDuel. A lot of centers with no love whatsoever. But the easiest guy to get to me, is going to still be, in this case, Alperen Şengün. We're going to get Chris Paul for sure. We're going to get PJ Washington. We're going to get Chet. We're going to get Zach LaVine. Now we need one of each. Point guard. Cason Wallace. Shooting guard. Klay Thompson. Small forward. Norm Powell. Power forward. Onyeka Okongwu? 300 left? I think I got it right out of the gate. I think this is going to be like mid 80s, 80, 82, 4, 82, 3, something like that. $169.9, blowing it out of the water again. I missed by half. I can double my guess and still not get to 169.9. Seriously, guys. I say it every day. I'm really good at this. Nobody builds lineups better than me. I'm probably the best lineup builder there is. But we got another one in the books. Speaking of in the books, MLB Live Before Lock at noon. Greg and Laffy will be live on playback at 1 o'clock watching baseball games and making bets. Greg and I will be live on NBA Live Before Lock tonight at 6, and then live again on playback from 7 to 8. So you're getting 2 hours of Greg on playback today. We got a ton of content coming up for the rest of the day. Let's have some fun, everybody. Remember, tons of news coming. We got a lot. This slate's going to change pretty dramatically. Also, the promo code is STU. The link is in the description of this video. 2-game suspension is giving you 2 free week trial of Portfolio EV at OddsShopper.com. Good luck, everybody. I'll talk to you guys later. Have some fun on this lovely home.